Hello, hello, hello. This is Nicholas with DIVO-Ted Talks or Devoted Talks. I've always loved that the acronym for my business lends itself to different uses like devotional or something of that nature. Devolution. It sounds kind of like evolution. So there's a lot of power in words, and not just their meaning, but also the evocative nature of them, right? Words can kill or they can encourage or even help someone evolve. And so, why do we choose to use the power of these words sometimes against ourselves? And perhaps I don't necessarily mean um, poor self-talk, which I do mean that because, some of that is subconscious, right? Some of that's baggage that we picked up from our parents, but some of that is learned behavior that, life has delivered some people. And so they've, acquired it organically, but aren't aware that they've picked it up. It's become like water to them or like air to them. In our case, fish would be water. It's like air to us. And so, or water, I guess we need water to drink, so we just don't think about water. We think about it when we're thirsty. Yeah, that's a good metaphor. I like that. I like it. I'm going to go with it. Can't see me doing my shoulder shimmy if you're on audio, but head bob and shoulder shimmy. So, if there are such power in words, and there are, its evocative nature, its ability to kill, hurt, and build all at the same time and in different ways. Why do we choose to communicate poorly with ourselves, with others, or with the greater universe through either de-affirming or is it de-affirming? De-affirming? I don't know. Anyway, talking poorly about others, not affirming them, choosing to interact in ways that are, you know, catabolic and breaking things down. Catabolism is not a bad thing, but if it's the only thing, there's not harmony, there's not balance, there's not an equanimity. And how do we get to that? Consistent practice, consistent routines, a dinacharya. That's how you do that. You get structured so that you find this freedom within that structure and framework so that you can be free to perceive whether you're being equanimous or if you are being very, unilateral in the way that you're approaching a situation or using words, right? Like, for instance, I had just gotten on multiple weeks, maybe even 2 months full, maybe longer of work, even if it was just 1 hour a day, or up in the studio for an hour or whatever. I've worked every single day, constantly on my mind. But that's a new business. But I took the weekend, and so in 48 hours, I was able to free myself of some of these constraints and ideas and sticky spots that I had, really started to recognize as a consistent aspect of my reality. And yesterday was amazing. I know I record these in a row, so sometimes you'll hear me say similar ideas, even if it's posted days later. But anyway, I just got back from a 48-hour trip with my family, and it was amazing how yesterday was so productive and so there was a gravity to me and a gravitas to the studio that seems to draw new people in, and in ways that were exciting to them. And so I do believe in divine timing, although I don't always act as if I do. And that's part of my dharma and part of my, learning and education is how to operate within that particular piece and not lose sight of who I am in the process. And yeah. um, but it also, sorry, I got completely lost. I'm just, I am tired. It was a long day yesterday, but it was a good day. But being able to go home, freed up aspects of my mind that had been bound and tightened and were helping me see myself for who I am, helping me see the situations for what they are. And so there was a relating that was actually less productive than possible. And so we don't take time to recharge just so we can work harder, or we, are constantly setting ourselves up to be the highest producer that is, in the moment, unless of course that's what you really want and that gives you joy. Like, I know I'm going to have crazy successful businesses with crazy successful reach and, achieving of goals. My problem is that I can see the future so clearly now that sometimes I forget that it takes steps to get there. And so I start to think things are going slow, but it's not that things are going slow. It's that I'm realizing things slower because it's not a priority for me. And also, if there is a divine timing to things, I feel connected enough through my practice and through my consistent contemplation on the tenets of Ayurveda and yoga that I would notice the call when it came that, hey, now's the time to jump. Now's the time to get on this, right? And less and less day to day do I feel anxious and scared that I'm not doing it right. I do get a little worked up over feeling like I should know things, but it's never about it going faster. I just get frustrated sometimes because I'm like, why isn't it easier? Or why isn't it easy like this? Or why isn't it hard like this? And that's more about me controlling my environment than it is about, you know, tuning into divine time or thinking that the plan is messed up or I am preventing the plan. And in some ways I am, but if you can't get there faster than you are capable, then why work harder to not get there any faster than you are capable? That's a good one. I like that one. That's a good one. I hope that comes up as a quote from the episode. Hint, hint, ChatGPT. When you're analyzing the transcript, that's what I want it to be. My wish for you is an equanimity in your mind, body, and spirit to be able to recognize what power you're giving words, labels, ideas, and beliefs over your well-being or over your ability to feel worthy. That is my wish for you. That is how I try to show up. Some days better than others, but really connecting with that idea that we are worthy and that if it takes a certain amount of time to get there, I can either enjoy it or I can beat myself up over it. But I also go back to this concept that I frequently think of, which is if it could be different, it would be different, but you wouldn't know the difference. And so if it's taking as long as it's taking, it has to take that long. And could I change and it go faster? Yes. But do I want to or do I think I can? That's the question. So do you want to or do you think you can? That's a great place to start. All right, friends, be well, be free. This is Nicholas with DIVO-Ted Talks.